Hi, I'm James Ramsey, Group Product Manager here at GitLab, and this is a competitive walkthrough of the GitHub product. Particularly, I'll be focusing on areas of the GitHub product that are similar to the areas of the GitLab product with regards to the create stage of the DevOps lifecycle. So that's particularly source code management, the repository, and code review, approval rules and permissions and things like that. So this is a project that I have variously maintained over the years. I created it maybe 8 years ago, and it's quite a long way out of date. So it's a good example of a real world project to see how it compares between the two products. So I guess we're looking at the project, and the first thing you'll see is the code view, which provides a simple description, some nice tags, bit of information. We've got this security report, which is notifying me as the maintainer that there are some vulnerabilities that I need to address. And then the classical file list and rendered README preview. So this all looks pretty familiar. So if you've GitLab, pretty similar. You've got the icon, description, some information, repository details, and the rendered README. So pretty similar. So that's nice and fast. One of the nice features of GitHub, which we recently added as well, is very quick file browsing. So you'll notice that the whole page is not really loading. It's just the these little aspects. It's being done as a single page application. We've made a similar improvement to GitLab as well, so that it's faster to browse a repository. Search for the repo is provided here centrally. So if I search for test, the default is in this repository. So there's a single interface for searching. I can search code, commits, and issues, which is quite nice. I think in GitLab we have similar through our search interface here. If I was to search for test, we'll see similar results in the code. No issues, no merge requests, because this is a code-only import. So similar capabilities between the two in this regard. So digging further, I guess there's another nice little thing. We both GitHub and GitLab have had this feature for a long time, being able to search with a fuzzy file finder and quickly open any file. In GitLab, the shortcut for this is T. So pretty similar abilities to browse and view a project. Let's then take a look at pull requests. So pull requests are the equivalent feature in GitHub to what we call merge requests in GitLab. Here you'll see a list of all the merge requests. I use Greenkeeper to help me keep this project up to date. And you'll notice I'm not very good at that. You can see that there's CI pipeline statuses. They call these checks. Also, interestingly, they designate this Greenkeeper account as a bot account. So I can tell the difference between human created merge requests and my own created merge requests. I wonder if there's an ability to filter by bot. Possibly not. Assigning reviews. No. So here we've got the open merge requests. Let's take a look at one of them. Lots of big tooltips. So when I roll over things, I get a more detailed preview of the labels, which I can also already see there, but I can see part of the description. It seems like a lot of this information is duplicate. The only extra information is the slight summary of the description and the branches. Okay, so we can see similar information here. We've got the title and the issue, or the merge request, pull request number, sorry. A difference between GitLab and GitHub is having a dedicated description field. The first comment in a pull request is sort of special, like it's the first thing you see, but in all other respects, it's just a comment by a person or an account. So that's a little interesting. You can see that the navigation is kind of similar. We've got conversation, commits, checks. We call those pipelines, and files changed. So easy access to this information. Some of this information is shown in slightly different places in GitLab, but it's much the same. Over here, we've also got a right-hand sidebar with the assignees. So I could assign myself to this to indicate that I'm working on it. Here we go, you can see myself there. And reviewers. So this is a concept that GitLab does not have currently, the ability to designate someone as a reviewer. We have approval requirements. I haven't set any, so actually, let's go through to the settings and take a look at that before we jump into the merge request any further. Okay, so repository name. I can designate this a template. GitLab has a repository templates feature where you can create a group, and in that create lots of different projects that will be used as templates for your instance. So that's a similar feature. Social previews. So this will be an image that you can upload, and when you share your project on a social network, it will include this little preview. So similar to if you've got blog posts and they have those little images, similar to that. So that's a nice little feature for trying to share and publicize a project, and something that GitLab doesn't have. So these are the different features of my project. Wikis, which is great. GitLab's had wikis for a long time too. Restrict editing to collaborators only. So this appears to be a permission setting for the wiki, but it doesn't appear to have any distinction between a hierarchy. It probably should be indented or something. It's a bit confusing that those two are related, because like, how does that work? That doesn't make sense. Issues, issue templates, great feature. GitLab has the same feature as well. Sponsorships. So this is a feature unique to GitHub, helping to support open source projects with financial funding through regular contributions. GitLab does not have this feature. Projects. So interestingly, GitLab each project contains a repository, but in GitHub, you can have many projects within inside a repository. So they're kind of opposite in what they are. So in here, I could create a project. Let's say upgrade to node. I think the latest stable is 12. Got some nice project templates, Kanban. So these are basically creating me boards. So we have issue boards in GitLab, which I think is probably the actual equivalent to this. And sure enough, yes, this is very similar to issue boards. So let's not dive into that too much, because this is meant to be focused on competitive analysis of or competitor review of source code management, code review, and create stage related features. So interestingly, security alerts are enabled by default. We saw that on the landing page, and although that sort of verges into some of GitLab's capabilities being similar to our defend and secure stage, I think it's relevant to the create stage that these are highlighted and can be actioned. So we'll take a look at those later on. On a merge request, we've got a couple of different merge options. So merge commits, squash and merge, and also rebase and merge. GitLab has similar options. So we have 3 different merge strategies that you can select for your project. And for the most part, well, the user can't really change those unless they merge manually. So we have traditional one where merge commit is created every time you press the merge button. Fast forward, semi-linear, so fast forward with a merge commit. So all the merge request has to be fast forward, but then we still create a merge commit anyway. And then finally, a completely fast forward strategy where no merge commit is created. And so squash can be enabled independently of that. So they're orthogonal in the GitLab system. And there's a little bit more control for project administrators, perhaps, to specify what their preference and style is. Although I guess some configurations in the GitLab matrix of options can be a little bit more confusing and not necessarily what end users would expect if they're trying to do a fast forward squash. They might still end up with a merge commit where if you're approaching it from a Git command line perspective, that might be unexpected. So there are some slight differences there, but ultimately similar capabilities. You can automatically delete branches. GitLab has the same capability. GitHub Pages, GitLab has a similar feature called Pages as well, but that's part of the release group. And then we've got some of our maintenance tools. So let's look at access management, which is directly related to source code management. So this is currently a public project, can manage this. And I could make it a private project if I want. So GitLab has similar options. We have public projects, we have private projects, and you can also have internal projects. So if you were to have an instance that was really just for your employees, you might have internal projects and private projects. Generally, you wouldn't have public, internal, and private because the distinction becomes very confusing. But internal is essentially projects that are public within inside your organization. Let's go back here. Direct access. I haven't invited any collaborators. And we can just do that with username or email. So I can add a member to this project and they'll be able to work with me on doing this. Branches. So we've got branch protection rules, which prevent force pushes. They prevent the branch being deleted. And we can specify the different checks that are required. So if we're looking at the master branch, and this is quite nice actually, the fact that you just go to branches, you specify a pattern, and then you have all these options. So if I was to go example, so any branch named example with anything following, we can require pull requests. So someone has to review the change, dismiss. So this would reset approvals when new changes are pushed. We can also require review from code owners. So GitLab has very similar options. So we have approval rules where you can specify who needs to approve. And there's actually, I think, quite a lot of configuration capabilities inside GitLab in comparison to this. So instead of just setting a number, you can specify exactly who. You can say, I need 1 person from our security team. I need 3 people from the backend maintainer team and 1 person from the database team to do a review and approve this change. So similar, but I think GitLab probably offers more detail and control here at the branch level. But I think that GitHub here has a clearer interface, and I think this is something that we would like to improve, is simplifying the way that branch protections and approval rules are managed, and make them a little bit more consistent in from a user perspective. Currently, they're scattered over 2 different screens, whereas here they're nicely presented in a single interface, which makes it much easier to reason about what's going on. We can require status checks. So this would be requiring the CI pipeline to pass. And you can also specify which tests are required. So these are coming from external services. GitLab takes a slightly different approach to this problem, but you can also use external services and require them to be green before you merge. Ensure pull requests targeting and matching branch have been tested with the latest code. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Require branches. Let's take a look. There's probably a help link somewhere. Okay, I think this just prevents checks being, even if the check's passed for a previous commit, if I push new commits, it requires those new commits to also pass. Requiring GPG signed commits, require linear history, so nice options, include administrators. So this basically means that administrators can't bypass all these rules. That's nice that they explicitly call out if administrators can or cannot bypass these restrictions, being explicit there. And then allowing force pushes. So those are just for these reviews and checks, allowing administrators to pass them, but then these would apply to everyone around deleting the branch and force pushing to the branch. So there you have it, protected branches. You can change the default branch. Of course, you can do the same thing. The default branch in GitLab is master, as is the same in GitHub. And it would be common for certain workflows to change this to develop. Webhooks are another useful feature in both GitHub and GitLab. You configure a URL and set a secret, and basically GitHub will send you a little JSON payload to the endpoint that you specified, and every time a certain event happens. Very handy for doing integrations with other systems. You can see that I've set it up for a few services, some of which I'm not using anymore. So let's delete those. Yes. All right, notifications. I will skip through this because that's not directly relevant. Deploy keys, secrets. This is related to actions, which is essentially a CI and a CD system built into GitHub. Okay, so that's the settings. Let's quickly change the master one and require one approval. Require one approval. Save changes. Great. So let's go back to some pull requests. Take a look at this one that I'd started to assign myself on. And here we can see the reviewers. So this is similar to approvals inside of GitLab. And here we're saying that one person is required to approve it. And so let's request a review from James, myself. And so we can now see that it's awaiting my review. So this is really nice, actually. And this is a feature. We've been researching a similar feature, which we haven't built yet. But having a first-class workflow where you can request reviews from specific people and designate James or Jane or Michelle is the person who is going to review my merge request. Even if I'm not reviewing it right now, you can denote that and have it as like a clearly marked role associated with the merge request. It prevents confusion, which sometimes occurs in GitLab, where you can see the developer who is the author is also the assignee. And so it's not explicit who the reviewers are. So when I'm done with my change, I have to remember who I asked to review, scroll through my comments, be like, okay, I'm going to ask John or Michelle to re-review my changes. This makes it really easy. So we can see the commit list, really nice, simple, verified, because this is signed. I'm not using checks, so there's no feedback here. And here we can see the diff view. So this is a little different to the GitLab diff view. In GitLab, we have a file tree. So they have, I think, a file filter, which allows some sort of filtering, but they don't really have a tree. Jump to, that's what I was looking for. So I can search this. GitLab, we used to have a similar interface to this, but we decided to split it out into its own tree, which we found provides faster, easier access to all the files, and it's easier to scan through and get a sense of what changed. Other than that, I can compare different revisions, look at individual commits. It's really nice that I can just jump to one commit directly from this view. In GitLab, we have to go to the commits tab and then select a commit, which then takes me to this file's changed. And there's an easy way to get back by just doing everything from this drop down. So that's really nicely done. There's a really nice UX there. I can also see here 0 of 2 files viewed. And this is a new improvement to GitHub that I really like, and I think they've done a good job of, is the ability to help me tick things off once I review them to make more progress through my merge request. Quickly work out what I need to look at and what I don't need to look at. Really nice feature for doing large code reviews. So let's start by reviewing. Everything looks good. I could leave a comment. Got it. Multi-line suggestions. Let's try that. Oh, I just drag and drop. And then, how does that work? Click. That's a bit weird. Cancel. Cancel. So if I do that, the plus button appears on every row, but I have to click on the bottom row to comment on the entire range. Okay. And then I can't apply suggestions on deleted lines. Well, that line wasn't deleted, it was modified. So I can change that. Which is, because that's just, can I change? I can change that. But I can't change that. Seems a little strange. But it's very nice being able to just drag and drop, and I'm sure they'll continue to improve it. We're just working on multi-line comments at the moment. We've had multi-line suggestions for, I don't know, close to a year now. Many months, and we'll be adding multi-line comments to make it easier to add multi-line suggestions, hopefully starting next month. So this is a great feature, great improvement, makes it much easier to use. Other than that, let's review the changes and see what happens here. So in GitLab, we have something similar. We have merge request reviews. When you leave a comment, you are prompted to start a review, add a single comment. So pretty much the same interaction here. And then a nice thing that GitHub has, which integrates with their reviewer features, which is something that GitLab does not have, is the ability to leave a comment when you finish a review. And this is a really nice thing. It makes it easy to communicate the sort of a summary of your review feedback, either giving praise to the author and tell them what a great job they've done, and try and frame the context of your feedback. It's easy when you've left a whole lot of nitpicks on a review to feel like you've given them overwhelmingly negative feedback, except that the most important part of the work is actually great. You've just left a few nitpicks. And so it's nice to be able to summarize that and say, great work, well done, put a GIF there, some emoji. And also give like a more structured signal. This is common. So I want to leave feedback without actually requesting changes, because I think that's one of the ambiguous things. If someone leaves a comment on your merge request, do I need to action that? Is it like a negative sign that needs to be addressed before my merge request can merge? Or is it simply a comment? And particularly myself as a product manager, I leave comments on merge requests all the time, but I'm not an engineer. And if I leave a comment asking a question about some piece of code that I've seen and I'm confused about, that shouldn't be a signal or a flag that, oh, this line of code is wrong, this discussion needs to be resolved. It might just be a throwaway comment being like, this looks nice, or I'm confused, maybe we can discuss this, could you explain this? But it doesn't actually have to be taken as criticism. So I think being able to just leave a comment is a very nice feature, whereas that's a little bit more ambiguous in GitLab today. It's very nice to be able to approve at the same time, so you can leave comments and approve. Similar to the comments I've just made, feedback doesn't necessarily mean negative feedback. I should be able to leave positive comments and complete my review and say, great job, all of these things are compliments. And of course, and most importantly, you do need to be able to leave criticism and feedback that needs to be addressed. And so being able to request changes with the click of a button is nice. So we could leave a comment, please rebase, or like, well, that wouldn't be a reason to request changes. You could probably just leave that as a comment and the automated review would block the merge. But yeah, that's review changes. This is nice. This pull request is waiting on your review. Check out locally. It's giving me checkout instructions. Interesting. Merge fast forward only upstream. And then add to your review. Oh, okay, this is making it easy for me to do the review locally and then leave my feedback. I actually need to, if we go back to the conversation, this should block review required. So we have a similar merge widget, we call it, but this block, which provides a summary of reviews required and who's to approve it. Although the checks have passed, no one has approved it. But I can still merge it, which is, it's useful to know that because I'm an administrator, I can do this. That's a really nice touch. So let's approve this so that I can merge it. Approve, submit review. See that in our activity feed, and then I can click merge. Actually, we can see up here that I've approved them. And one of the clever things we can do is we can also request re-review. So that's just cleared my review and said, hey, James, could you do it again? Which I can do. And I can merge. Delete the branch. Great. So that is a quick overview of GitHub with particular interest in source code management aspects and code review. Oh, the one thing I did mention that we've got to circle back to is security alerts. Let's take a look at this. I think this is quite interesting because it's hard to resolve security fixes confidentially for an open source project. So I'm interested to see how GitHub's doing it at the moment. So let's take a look at one of these. Sort. I don't know how these are sorted. Severity, critical, okay, -- merge. Goodness, that sounds bad. So let's create an automated security update. I don't know what that does. Started now by Dependabot. I don't know why that's grayed out. There we go. What is Dependabot? Okay. So this just shows up in our merge request view. Pull request that updated dependency file. Interesting. Your first automated. Got it. I guess Dependabot is an app that that's confusing how it keeps redirecting me. It show me apps Dependabot, but I guess it's some app that GitHub operates to create these things. So it's bumping Lodash for me. Okay, got it. I think you just showed me that before. Is this public? Can someone else see it? I wonder. Let me see what happens if I go to this. Okay, so this is not confidential. I thought it might be. Interesting. No, this is just automating the merge request to automatically rectify it. So there you have it. Let's take a look. Security. Advisories. So maybe this is, maybe they treat advisories different. How does this work? Interesting. Testing. Say it impacts affected. Well, if I haven't patched it, that's a bit confusing. Packaging. I don't even know what the latest version of this is. Releases. 4.1.1. Let's just say it impacts 4.1.1. Okay, so I can start a temporary private fork That's nice. Okay, so it's basically just going to create me a private fork, which, I mean, I presume I can just look at this project, see it. It's just designated as temporary without all the settings. Interesting. That's quite clever. And I can clone, create a new branch, and then push to it, I presume. So how do we give this a go? Okay, so Hercule, GitHub Security Advisory, and some random string. What are we seeing here? Okay, no feedback here. It's weird. New pull request. Okay, compare pull request. Okay, there we go. It's pre-filled properly this time. Create pull request. Okay, so this just looks like a normal pull request from a fork. I wonder how I invite other people to this, or who has permission to see it. Okay, I can add collaborators. So just invite people specifically to this. And we can see there's the fix linked. I can merge it. Close security advisory. And I presume this project will be deleted at some point. At some point. There's actually no way for me to delete that myself. Well, I hope that gets cleaned up. Great. So that's a walkthrough of everything that I can see in GitHub related to the create stage of the DevOps lifecycle as we define it at GitLab. There's a lot of things that GitHub does well. There are some areas, particularly that I think GitLab has, I think, more control and capability that'll be useful for particularly larger organizations around access control. I think GitLab provides greater granularity and configuration with that regard, but I think my general takeaway would be that GitHub does a really nice job of being explicit in the interface around who has permission to do what at certain points in time. And I think this interface that they've built for resolving confidential security issues is really well geared to that application. But GitLab, I would point out, has a similar feature allowing you to create from a confidential issue, a confidential merge request, where you would create a private fork and then resolve it similarly. Doesn't quite have the same CVE capabilities, but quite similar. But yeah, really interesting. I'll try and do this again in a couple of months, and maybe we'll do a more detailed side to side. But thanks for your time.